You know that feeling, right? That sudden flush after a spicy meal, or maybe that stubborn redness that just hangs around. But what if it's more than just a passing blush? Well, today we're going to decode the signals our skin is sending us. We'll trace the journey from a simple flush all the way to a chronic condition. So let's figure out what your skin is really trying to tell you.
It's something we all experience, that sudden wave of heat, a flush across your cheeks. But what's actually happening under the surface? And more importantly, when does that simple blush become a sign of something that needs a little more attention? Let's dig in and find out.
All right, to really get what's happening on the surface, we have to go deeper. We're going to start at the very root of the problem, the first domino that falls in the whole chain reaction that leads to persistent redness. So, what is that root cause? Honestly, you might be surprised. It all kicks off with something incredibly simple, a lack of sebum, which is just your skin's natural oil. Yep, that one single issue is the trigger for everything that comes next. Okay, so how in the world does low oil production lead to visible redness? Well, it's a three-step chain reaction. First, that lack of sebum weakens your skin's natural protective barrier, leaving it kind of vulnerable. This messes with microcirculation. That's the delicate blood flow in the tiny vessels right under your skin. And over time, all that pressure can lead to something called telangiectasia. It's a fancy term, I know, but it basically just means those tiny spiderweb-like broken capillaries that you can start to see on your skin's surface. Now, let's talk about the first stage you can actually see and feel. This is that temporary, reactive redness that, a lot of us have had after a glass of wine or a really stressful day. Let's break down exactly what's going on here. This first stage has a name. It's called erythema. And the key word to remember here is transient. That means this redness comes and it goes. What's happening scientifically is pretty fascinating. It's temporary capillary vasodilation. That's just a technical way of saying your tiny blood vessels expand for a little while, which rushes more blood to the surface and, boom, you've got that visible flush. So what causes this temporary redness? Oh, a whole lot of really familiar things. Strong emotions, jumping from a hot room to a cold one, that glass of wine we talked about, or a super spicy meal. Sound familiar? These are all super common triggers that can kick off a temporary bout of erythema. But what happens when that redness stops being a brief visitor and kind of decides to move in for good? This is where we go beyond a simple reaction and enter into a more constant state of hypersensitivity. And just so you know, we're not making this up. Here's a quick look at the research that inspired this full explainer. The source material lays out this exact progression, a really clear journey from temporary flushing to more stable, persistent conditions. So let's walk through those next stages. Okay, the next stage up is erythrosis, and the key word here is persistent. The flushing doesn't totally disappear anymore. The skin keeps a sort of pinkish tone, even when you're completely calm and just resting. Your capillaries are still intact, but they're just staying dilated or open for longer periods. And that brings us to true rosacea. Now, the defining word is stable. The redness is widespread and it's constant. And at this point, those capillaries aren't just dilated, they're now visibly broken and frayed. This is where we see that telangiectasia. Remember that big word we mentioned at the start? That's what's happening here. So let's put it all together, because this is the really crucial takeaway. We see a super clear progression here. Erythema is transient. It's short-term flushing. Erythrosis is persistent. That's the skin that's always a little pink. And true rosacea is stable. That's the constant redness with those visible broken capillaries. See? It's a spectrum, and understanding where you might be on it is absolutely key. Okay, so we've seen the what. We've seen the stages of redness. But why does this happen in the first place? To answer that, we need to understand our skin's amazing built-in natural defense system. This brings us to a really fundamental question. What's supposed to keep our skin hydrated and protected from the get-go? What is our body's natural first line of defense against this kind of sensitivity? The answer is in our skin's incredible water shield. And it has three main parts. First up, you've got the hydrolipidic film on the surface. Think of it like a natural waterproof coating made of your sweat and oil. Then, a little deeper, you have the natural moisturizing factor, or NMF, which is awesome at locking water inside your cells. And finally, you've got connective fibers like collagen that give everything structure. When any part of this defense system gets weakened, well, it creates the perfect storm for the kind of hypersensitivity we've been talking about. So, after breaking all this down, From a simple blush all the way to a stable condition, the question really comes back to you. Understanding these stages is so powerful because it's the first step to truly listening to your body. So the next time you see red in the mirror, ask yourself, is this just a fleeting message or is it a more permanent signal? What is your skin trying to tell you?